Mystic Christianity, or the Inner Teachings of the Master, by Yogi Ramacharaka. An adult brain audiobook production read to you by Dunlop. Publisher's Notice. The lessons which compose this volume originally appeared in monthly form, the first of which was issued in October 1907, and the 12th in September 1908. These lessons met with a hearty and generous response from the public, and the present volume is issued in response to the demand for the lessons in a permanent and durable form. There has been no change in the text. The publishers take the liberty to call the attention to the readers to the great amount of information condensed within the space of each lesson. Students have told us that they have found it necessary to read and study each lesson carefully in order to absorb the varied information contained within its pages. They have also stated that they have found it advisable to reread the lessons several times, allowing an interval between the readings, and that at each reading they would discover information that had escaped them during the course of the previous study. This has been repeated to us so often that we feel justified in mentioning it, that others may avail themselves of the same plan of study. Following his usual custom, the writer of this volume has declined to write a preface for this book, claiming that the lessons will speak for themselves, and that those for whom they are intended will receive the message contained within them without any prefatory talk. The Yogi Publication Society. The first lesson, The Coming of the Master, the Forerunner. Strange rumors reached the ears of the people of Jerusalem and the surrounding country. It was reported that a new prophet had appeared in the valley of the lower Jordan, and in the wilderness of northern Judea, preaching startling doctrines. His teachings resembled those of the prophets of old, and his cry of "Repent, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand," awakened strange memories of the ancient teachers of the race, and caused the common people to gaze wonderingly at each other, and the ruling classes to frown and look serious when the name of the new prophet was mentioned. The man whom the common people called a prophet, and whom the Exalted One styled an impostor, was known as John the Baptist, and dwelt in the wilderness away from the accustomed haunts of men. He was clad in the rude garments of the roaming ascetics, his rough robe of camel skin being held around his form by a coarse girdle of leather. His diet was frugal and elemental, consisting of the edible locusts of the region, together with the wild honey stored by the bees of the wilderness. In appearance, John, whom we called the Baptist, was tall, wiry, and rugged. His skin was tanned a dark brown by the winds and sun which beat upon it unheeded. His long black hair hung loosely around his shoulders and was tossed like the mane of a lion when he spoke. His hair was rough and untrimmed. His eyes gleamed like glowing coals and seemed to burn into the very soul of his hearers. His was the face of the religious enthusiastic with a message for the world. This wild prophet was most strenuous, and his teachings were couched in the most vigorous words. There was no tact, policy, or persuasion in his message. He hurled his verbal thunderbolts right into his crowd, the very force and earnestness emanating from him serving to charge his words with a vitality and magnetism which dashed itself into the crowd like a spark of electricity, knocking men from off their feet, and driving the truth into them as if by a charge of a powerful explosive. He told them that the spiritual grain was to be gathered into the garners, while the chaff was to be consumed as if by a fiery furnace, that the axe was to be laid to the root of the trees which brought not forth good fruit. Verily, the day of Jehovah, long promised by the prophets, was near to hand to his hearers and followers. John soon gathered to himself a following, the people flocking to him from all parts of the country, even from Galilee. His followers began to talk among themselves, asking whether indeed this man were not the long-promised Master, the Messiah for whom all Israel had waited for centuries. This talk coming to the ears of the prophet caused him to answer the question in his discourses, saying, "There cometh one mightier than I after me, the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?